Hello and welcome. I'm Kristen Macklingum, and with me is the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Western Hemisphere at the U.S. Department of Defense, Mr. Daniel Erickson. Mr. Erickson, welcome to Guyana, and thank you so much for being here. How are you, and how has your trip to Guyana been so far?
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to meet you, and today is my second day in Guyana. We arrived yesterday, or actually the day before yesterday. And it's been a fantastic first trip of the year for me. It's my first visit ever to the country, and I've wanted to come here for a long time, so really happy to have the opportunity.
Well, thank you. We're happy to have you as well. So I know you have a very busy schedule. You have a few hours remaining, and therefore I'd like to get straight into this with you. First of all, sir, who have you met here in Guyana? And based on discussions with those persons, what insights can you share? What priority areas were highlighted?
Sure. So since I've been here, I've had meetings with my counterparts at the U.S. Embassy, also with senior leadership here in Guyana on both the foreign affairs side of the house as well as with the defense forces. And it's been a really rich set of conversations. I see that Guyana is a country that has a lot of potential and is really at a very exciting moment as the economy continues to grow and as Guyana is assuming greater regional responsibility as well. And so I think that our conversations have really been focused primarily on how we can strengthen the U.S.-Guyana defense relationship, understanding that we already have a very strong foundation to build on, but there's much more we can do together.
All right, so this is your first visit overseas for 2024, and your visit emphasizes the bilateral defense and security partnership between Guyana and the U.S. How will your visit impact the Guyana Defense Force specifically and broader regional relations?
Well, for me, it was extremely important to come down and meet with the Guyana Defense Force to get a better firsthand understanding of how they see the challenges and opportunities and what the steps are that they are taking and wish to take in terms of military modernization. And so I think that looking forward, there's several areas where we can deepen collaboration, including training, information sharing, some steps on cybersecurity as well. And I think that what you'll see over the course of this year is there'll be a very robust pattern of interaction and engagement between the U.S. Department of Defense and the Guyana Defense Force.
All right. Given Guyana's significant benefits from past military engagements, especially in naval cooperation, what further support and initiatives can Guyana expect from the U.S. this year?
What we're principally interested in from the U.S. perspective is ensuring that the Guyana Defense Force is developing as an institution to really identify what are the capabilities that it requires and the gaps. And then we can see how the U.S. can help assist and ensure that it has what it needs in order to conduct its responsibilities to defend the nation. And so this will be an ongoing process, an ongoing conversation. But yesterday I received a set of excellent briefings from the Guyana Defense Force, which I think laid a very strong foundation from which we can move ahead.
In general, the plan is to enhance training and assist in the modernization of the Guyana Defense Force, the defense force here. How will the U.S. contribute to these efforts?
I think one of the principal ways we'll contribute is that we have a number of specialized training teams that work with partner countries across the region, and several of these teams will be visiting Guyana in the coming weeks and months and work with their counterparts here to really see how we can deepen the knowledge, the collaboration, and the cooperation in terms of joint exercises. So I think that a lot of this has to do with the transfer of information and knowledge that the Guyana Defense Force can find very helpful.
Speaking of deepening knowledge and information, can you elaborate on some of the plans, or maybe one of the plans, to deepen the information sharing and the potential for complex joint and combined exercises in the near future?
Sure. Well, one of the areas where I think we've seen a lot of challenges across the hemisphere and in the Caribbean and in Guyana as well relates to cybersecurity. And so one of the areas that we'll focus on is seeing how we can do more advanced and deeper training on cybersecurity to counter cyber threats.
All right. So this is another question in terms of transnational threats. In the context of transnational threats like drug trafficking and arms, how do you envision the cooperation between the U.S. and Guyana evolving?
Well, I think that this has been a major concern throughout much of the Caribbean, and we see the challenge of countering transnational criminal organizations and illicit trafficking as being one that really requires a whole of government response. And so the Department of Defense can play an important role in terms of strengthening intel cooperation, but of course there's the national security agencies as well in Guyana that can have a very important role to play in this. And so from our perspective, it's extremely important that we as the United States government work across our whole of government with our counterparts here in Guyana. I would also add that in addition to some of the challenges posed by transnational criminal organizations, there are other threats that we see in the region and risks from broader natural phenomena like climate change. And so one of our priorities as well is to strengthen climate resilience among defense forces in the region.
Speaking about the Caribbean, President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali has maintained that our region must remain a zone of peace. How do you perceive the current challenges to stability in the region, and what synergies do you foresee for the U.S., the Guyana Defense Force, and possibly CARICOM in addressing these challenges?
Thank you for the question. We believe it's very important that the hemisphere remains a zone of peace, and we all have to work hard to keep it that way. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is to work effectively with all of our partners throughout the region, including Guyana, to ensure that they have the capabilities they need to maintain peace in their countries in respective areas of responsibility, and also ensure that there is a collaborative approach to hemispheric defense across the many countries in the region.
All right. Coming back to cybersecurity, with the increasing importance of cybersecurity and technological advancements, what collaborative efforts are being planned in these domains?
Sure. So there's going to be a number of training and exercises that take place in the coming months, and it's really primarily about ensuring that we are sharing best practices and also ways to counter the threats that are posed in the cyber domain. Though these threats are not unique to Guyana, we're seeing a number of challenges across a range of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, and of course globally. And therefore, this has been really one of our primary lines of effort in the past several months, and we look forward to continuing it this year.
All right. So the last question for you. Looking towards the future, what are the long-term goals of the U.S. defense partnership with Guyana, and how do they align with broader geopolitical strategies?
The U.S.-Guyana defense partnership is already very strong. But I think that both of our countries recognize the need to build on this foundation and ensure that it's moving forward and keeping pace with the new challenges and opportunities that exist in this region as a whole. And so in the coming year, I anticipate that there will be numerous exchanges between the United States and Guyana at all levels. I would note that Guyana is also taking on a seat as a member of the UN Security Council in the coming period, as well as chairing the Caribbean community in the first half of this year. And so all of those create, I think, a great opportunity for the U.S. and Guyana to work together both on a bilateral basis, but through the relevant multilateral organizations to ensure that we have a peaceful and prosperous hemisphere.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. And all the best for the remainder of your visit here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.